This is Malham's Math 70 for Monday, April the 13th, section 11.1. Chapter 11 is dealing with financial math. We're only getting a brief taste of it. If you want more financial math, then a good course would be Math 75, Math Analysis for Business, or perhaps a course in the business department. Then our last chapter will be on probability. That's going to be chapter 12. And again, we're just going to hit the basics of probability. You can get a lot more probability in Math 80, which is probability and statistics. 11.1, we have two basic formulas. I equals PRT. Simple interest is equal to principal times rate times time. And A equals P plus I. The amount is the principal plus the interest. That also shows up over here in a slightly different fashion. But we'll get to that in problem number 21. So for problem 5, we basically just plug everything in. The principal is given to be $8,000. The rate is 7%. The time is 1 year. Should emphasize that time is always given in terms of years. So if it's not given in years, we have to adjust accordingly. So I plug in $8,000 is the principal. The rate 7% as a decimal is 0.07. We always want to write it in terms of a decimal. And the time is 1. And just multiply that all out, and we get $560 is the earned interest. Okay, this is a formula for simple interest. Next time we will do something called compound interest. And a lot of these other ones are pretty much similar, maybe just some little twist to them. For number 9, principal is $9,000, rate is 6.75%. Time is given to be 4 months. The formula way back up here, time is always in terms of years. So if it isn't in years, you have to convert it to years. So we know that 4 months is 4 out of 12, or 1/3 of a year. So we're going to be plugging in 1/3 into the equation. Interest is principal times rate times time. So we multiply 9,000 times 6.75% as a decimal is 0.0675. So we convert this to a decimal. And notice the time, we don't plug in 4, we plug in 1/3 because it's always in terms of years. So 4 months is 1/3 of a year. So we multiply and we get $202.50. Problem 13, P is 7,000, R is 7.2%, T is 114 days. So for the calculations that they ask us to do in the text, they want us to use a 360-day year. We know, of course, that there's 365 days on most years, but the year 2020, even we had 366 days because it was a leap year. But in the text, they told us to use 360, so we'll just go ahead and use 360. So the fractional amount that 114 days will be 114 over 360. So we plug in 7,000 times 0.072, which is 7.2%, and then 114 over 360 is what they asked for in the text, assuming that most months are an average of 30 days. Now, in real life, if this were the year 2021, let's say, then we would use 365 days, but in the year 2020, we have 366 days being a leap year. In any event, just punch this all out. We will use 360 because that's what the text told us to. We get $159.60. 17, a little bit of a twist also. Principal is $1,600. R is 1.75% monthly. It says monthly. And once again, the rate that you commonly hear in banks and business institutions and so forth are always annually. So if they give it to you monthly, then we multiply that by 12 to get the annual rate. So rates are always understood. So let's say for this one and this one, it's always understood to be annual if they don't tell you otherwise. And if they give you something else like monthly, then we convert it to annually. And time is 6 months. So I took the 1.75% and I multiplied that by 12 in order to get the annual rate. So that's 0.0175 times 12. That comes out to be 0.21 or 21%. So now we multiply 1,600 times the rate of 0.21 times 0.5. Again, 6 months is half a year, or 0.5, comes out to be $168. For problem 21 and problems that are near it, we use the new amount. They want to know the new amount. It's equal to the principal plus the interest. But since the interest formula is PRT, I plug in P plus PRT, and you can factor out the P, and you have P times 1 plus RT. So they told us for problem 21 and some of the surrounding problems to use the new amount is principal times parentheses 1 plus RT. So you want to know the new amount, not just the interest. So for 21, the principal is 7,200, rate is 7.95%, T is 4 months. Once again, 4 months is 1/3 of a year. So I plug into this formula. So P is 7,200, parentheses 1 plus R times T. R is 0.0795 times 1/3 of a year. And punch that in your calculator, 7390.80. Problem 25, they ask for the interest rate. So we're solving for R. So a little bit of algebra here. If I equals PRT, then in green here, you divide both sides by PT. P's will cancel, T's will cancel, so you have R is equal to I over PT. Again, using the convention that the variable that you're solving for, you put on the left-hand side, even though it comes out on the right-hand side here. Right, so I just plug in now these pieces of information. So the principal is 1,600, I is 120, and T is 1 year. So I plug everything in. I is 120, that goes right here. Principal is 1,600 times 1. Of course, multiplying by 1 is very easy. So that's 120 over 1,600 is 0.075. The way we normally give an interest rate is as a percentage, so 0.075 is 7.5%. For 29, something similar. To give you the principal is 1,200, interest is $37.20. The time is 4 months. What is the annual interest rate? So once again, I will use I equals P over T, like I did over here. So I plug in 3720 divided by 1,200 times, once again, 4 months is 1/3 of a year. 1,200 times 1/3 is 400, so 3720 divided by 400 comes out to be 0.093, which is 9.3%. Again, given the answer as a percentage. Then 31 and 35, it's basically the same thing, only they give it to you as a word problem. So you just read the words and get the parts that we need. So for 31, the words are the principal is 1,500, the rate is 5.2%, the time is 6 months. And they wanted to find out the interest. So I multiply 1,500 times 0.052 times 0.5, half a year, 6 months, and interest is $39. And for the word problem for 35, they want the new amount, so I'll use the formula from over here. Amount is P parentheses 1 plus RT. So principal is 7,000, rate is 8.7%, time is 8 months. So plug everything in. P is 7,000, 1 plus R is 8.7% is 0.087. 8 months is 2/3 of a year, so I plug in 2/3 here, punch it in the calculator, and you get 7406 is the answer. So these are notes for our Math 70, Monday, April the 13th, section 11.1.